I did get a couple things in. Got a couple different options here, but the one I'm going to go with is a full clutch assembly that I got off of eBay. So this is what I got. I also have some extra springs and stuff, but I'll show you those here in just a minute. So here it is. I got it sitting next to the old one here for a reason. The one on the top here, that's the new one. It came in a packaged assembly here, come with an extra spring and all the hardware, of course. So let me show you why I got it sitting right here. I got it kind of measured up here so I can show you. That's about how much of the shoe that I wore off of the old one. The old one's in the back. It's really not that bad, but that could be why I'm not contacting the way that I need to. So also with a little bit of a weaker spring, this should help it out quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the new hardware on, go ahead and install it on there, get everything else back on it as well, and then we'll try to get this thing out before we get a bunch of snow and nasty weather, and see if we can hopefully get it gnawed out. Alright, so in my opinion, you should really use the green Loctite. All I really have is blue. I'm out of green. I use blue and red a lot. I had a small thing of green and I've already used it all. Green is like a medium duty. So basically, when you put these on here, I guess I should have shown you that part. That funky washer, the one that's all warped or whatever, goes on right next to the nut or the bolt on the outside. And then the regular flat washer goes on the inside. At least that's what I've always been told. And I'm just going to dose these up pretty decent with Loctite and reinstall them. That's all you got to do. I'm going to mark these up. Try to mark up which ones are which. This is my 6K that came extra with that. And then I also have these over here. And I bought some other ones as well. Those are also 6K. So I've got a pretty decent amount of 6K. I'll probably just throw them all in one bag. That way I know what they are. These I believe are 8K. And you see why you can't always go by the color? It is what it is. Now all I'm doing with these is I just put them all together and wrote 6K springs. And I do want to show you what I actually paid for these. So this is my springs right there. They were $8.99 for a set of 2, and that's the entire assembly, $15.99. And this is all eBay stuff, guys. So, take it as you will. They're all pretty much about the same, no matter where you get them at. It's all comes from China, probably, I'm sure. But regardless, I now have extras. I know what they are. I have a brand new assembly, so there's no excuse for this not to work. That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to eliminate things here so I can tell where the problem is and hopefully fix it. But I'm kind of running out of patience, so if I don't figure it out soon, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to end up ripping that rear end apart and just replacing the shaft again with the original and get rid of the 2-speed, which I don't want to do because, I've paid quite a bit of money for the 2-speed, so I'm trying really hard to figure out what's wrong with it. Now when I Loctite these, I give them a fairly heavy dose, let it kind of roll on the threads a little bit, and then I'll pop this on. Alright, now something to be said about when you do these here, when you tighten these up, go back and forth until you work them in kind of even. Once you get it somewhat snug on the end there, without cranking it down yet, move on to the next one, do the same thing, and then go back and forth about a quarter turn. That way it's tightening evenly. That's what I always like to do. You got to give the Loctite a little room to work as well. So when you tighten these, you want them tight, but you don't need to crank them like 100 foot-pounds or anything like that. Just get them nice and tight, and then the Loctite will do the rest. You do have to let this stuff sit for a while, which I plan to do anyway. So that's what we're doing right now. We're going to go ahead and get them all completely locked up here, and then we'll start working on the rest of it. Alright, so I got this all cinched back up, so now I'm going to go ahead and take out my cylinder stop. And as you see, there probably isn't any kind of damage there. The way I do mine anyway is when you tighten them, you don't keep hitting the top of this here, because you will cause marks and damage and stuff. What I like to do is just kind of bring it up to where it's sitting on it, and then I'll do a little bit of cranking. But I never do anything super hard and tight and crazy or anything like that, because you're going to create marks if you do, so don't do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start putting the rest of this stuff back on a little bit at a time. Okay, a couple of notes about these. The clutch bell back here, I did have to take off this piece here, which you just loosen these two bolts, pull them out, and then the bottom slides right out, and the removes. I think I got away with it before because the clutch was so worn down, but just keep that in mind. Alright, so now we're just going to start putting everything else back together here. And again, it's all pretty standard here. If you took it apart the right way, everything will line up, all your holes. You shouldn't have any issues with it. So I just have a little bit of hardware over there to put on, and then that little guard, and that's it. Put the gears back on, ready to rock and roll again. Well, that's it, guys. She's all back together. I got a little bit of a tighter feel here. I hope that doesn't cause any issues, but we'll have to wait and see. It seems like everything's tighter. I'm betting it's because of the clutch and there has more meat on it. I don't know. We'll just have to see and go from there. I'm going to try to get this out one more time before the weather turns nasty. It's a time of the year where snow and ice and all that stuff gets out, so I won't be taking it out then. I want to try to have a little opportunity to do some tuning on this, if it will even hold together. So gonna try to get it out, like I said, one more time and see where we go with it. Another couple notes here: when you guys are cranking on your spark plugs here, basically you want to get them hand tight, and then I have a tool that comes with most every fifth scale, just simple tool. That end right there is what you need. You stick it down in there, put a screwdriver or something in there, and just give it a little snug is all you need to do. You don't need to crank real hard on those damn things. You will break them. I've worked on a lot of small engines in my life, and it's always served me well. Doesn't need to be cranked down real tight. Just snug pretty good, and that's usually good enough. I did tighten up my exhaust here. I've got some new red Loctite on that, so hopefully that holds together. And once again, this thing's ready to get out and rip. Just anything you do when you do these kind of repairs and work and stuff like that. I'm still not sure about this one here, guys. It's all out in the bank. But anything you do, just take it a piece at a time and be slow, and just make sure you mark everything. Like me, for example, it looks like a mess over here, but I got them laid out. When I had it laid out, I laid the screws out that came out of this section, and the same thing in the little clutch bell carrier or whatever back here. Laid those out in a separate area, laid the clutch out next to it, so on and so forth. It just made sense to me. You can come up with whatever system that you want, but then that way you know exactly how it goes back together. Just look at it, take your time, going back and forth, nice and slow. And that's the way I learned years ago when I was small. So I would take apart an engine, small engine or whatever, and I'd just lay out the pieces how they came out, and then I would put them back together in reverse order, and I very rarely messed up. I always took my time. And this is basically the same thing. You got a small little two-stroke, basically like a weed whacker type engine. Different setup on here for the mounting and stuff like that, but a lot of the parts are the same. You got better carburetors and stuff, but so on and so forth. Just take your time on anything you do with these, and you will be just fine. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and we are going to get this out hopefully one more time to see if what we did actually works.